This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team. The final score, Wrexham 1, Hartlepool United 0. It's deja vu all over again, kids. Whoa, that was a bit too much like the Chesterfield match for comfort as far as I'm concerned, as Wrexham got themselves into a winning position. And by the end, were defending too deep and digging themselves in to survive and failing to take advantage of good breakaway opportunities. But it was a win. Wrexham ended the day on equal top, behind Orient only on goal difference, so we certainly can't complain about that. But boy, oh boy, that was a bit of a hard job today. They really worked hard, made heavy weather of it. Wrexham making a trio of changes. Mark Carrington wasn't fit, and James Jennings came in, and a couple of players brought in up front as well. Bevan and Maguire-Drew replacing Fondop and Rutherford. Akil Wright making his 50th appearance for Wrexham, and Wrexham after it was a fascinating first half. First 10 minutes were very dull. Hartlepool, though, asking a lot of tactical questions. They play three at the back. Their wing back stayed very high and very wide, and it really stretched Wrexham out, and both sides pressing very hard. In the first 10 minutes, there was no incident as such, and quite a sort of muted atmosphere. But it was fascinating to watch, because Hartlepool looked to be doing a tactical number on Wrexham. They were causing Wrexham problems, pressing so high up the pitch. And you wondered how Wrexham would cope. Well, how they actually coped was to break through the press and start to create chances. And having said that the first 10 minutes were muted, the next 5 were packed full of crash bang wallop action. It started off with Luke Young typically driving a really powerful strike from 25 yards, which must have moved a lot in the air. And Scott Loach managed to get down to it and parry it. It was a good save by him, but he could see him adjust late on, pushed it into the ground, it bounced up, and you rather fancy Maguire-Drew ought to have done better. He headed the ball over from about 8 yards out, and if he was able to control his header and put it on target, I think Loach would have had a chance. So an opportunity. That, in fact, I've got to say that started a pattern. I have no explanation for this, but there seemed to be an awful lot of strange incidents happening around long shots at the Kop end. I don't know if there's some weird microclimate, some sort of weird vortex on the edge of the area, but the decisive goal would cause a problem. Couldn't tell from where we were that it was swerved or was a deflection. And Lainton would have an issue with long range shot later on as well. So something was going on at the Kop end, you felt, but I don't know what. Soon afterwards, there was another parry by the keeper, more orthodox this time. Akil Wright winning a free kick on the edge of the area. Remarkable that the referee didn't buck Davis for his wild challenge on Wright, although it's got to be said, he would soon pay a price with the referee. Maguire-Drew stepped up and dinked the free kick over the wall. Loach, seeing it late, was able to push it clear. Almost immediately, Hartlepool were breaking forward, so Davis driving the ball over the top. Denanga was an eager runner up front, and he managed to bring it down and had 2 bites at the cherry. The second one from a tight angle on the turn, driving towards goal. I think it might just have been going wide, but Lainton wasn't, no, and he made the first of a series of good saves, sticking his left foot out and blocking it behind from a corner. Wrexham got lucky from that corner, though. The ball swung towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Davis with the full-length diving header, which ricocheted in to a crowded 6-yard box. Hartlepool had penned Lainton, then there were a lot of bodies in that goal mouth. It ricochets around, and Lainton managed to recover, dive, and grab hold of the ball as it was crossing the line to ensure that Hartlepool didn't get an early goal. A minute later, it's Wrexham on the attack, though. Maguire-Drew doing really well to nod the ball back to Wright, who on the edge of the area won it, and suddenly everything opened up for him. He hit it and put it just wide of the left post. The keeper completely wrong-footed and rooted to the spot. If he just managed to put it about a foot to the right, it would have gone in the bottom corner and Wrexham would have been ahead. As it is, they did go ahead in the 21st minute, and it was it started. The first thing to say about it was an indication of what you can achieve when you pass through a high press. Hartlepool pressing really hard. Pearson did well to nod the ball down and challenging Wrexham, passed it down the flank. Bevan and Wright did well, and Wrexham managed to pass the way through Hartlepool's high press. It fell to Luke Young on a halfway line. He carried it as far as he could. I wondered if he'd over-carried it, to be honest, and then he hit a shot from 25 yards. Loach went down, and seemed to go in the wrong direction. He swung a foot at it and couldn't get much contact on it, and it was through him for a goal. It's either a horrible goalkeeping error, or I think more likely a deflection on the way through, or even just a massive swerve on it. I can't wait to see the video to ascertain exactly what it was, because from our angle we can't quite tell. But whatever it was, Luke Young had struck again. He's starting to find the goals, and Wrexham were ahead, and they continued to press on in a good spell of pressure for them. The ball coming out from a corner, partially cleared, and when Bevan did well to retrieve the ball on the right side of the box and dink it back into the goal mouth, Pike, standing in front of an open goal, leapt, and it just cleared his head and went beyond him, and the danger had passed. Then at the other end, Donaldson, playing as a left wing back, but really advanced, and clearly the danger man, cut inside nicely, and from 20 yards out drove in a powerful shot. Leighton, diving to his right, managed to parry the ball away. But just as Hartlepool were wondering if feeding more to Donaldson might cause a problem, they found themselves really stupidly down to 10 men. It was the culmination of a niggly little passage of play. It started off when Brad Walker went in very hard, I think on Noble. He won the ball cleanly, but it looked a bit two-footed. It was a hell of a hard tackle, and the referee decided it was legal and carried on. It was a big call for the referee. Noble was not happy, and the next time Walker picked the ball up, well, Noble basically tried to foul him twice as Walker ran away from him, and then after the ball was released, took a kick at him as well. I've seen referees send people off for that sort of thing. Noble has a reputation, of course, of being someone who likes getting into a player's skins, and you may recall a couple of seasons ago he made a horrible challenge on Russ Penn, which looked like a red leg breaker when playing for Forest Green Rovers. Just a referee didn't penalise with a red card, so we got away with that. But the tone that you felt was set for a bad-tempered match, and of course Wrexham have their own player who could wind up opponents and irritate them in Stuart Bevan. The ball was not long towards him. He went up with Davis. Davis seemed to take exception to him and shoved him to the floor. After they'd gone up for the header, there was a bit of argy-bargy, and then it certainly appeared to us, this, again, something to look on the replay for, Davis stood up, and as he was standing over Bevan, hit him. That's certainly how we all saw it up in the press box. There's been some talk apparently on social media that it might not have been that, and there might have been some other form of assault, but a headbutt. But it looked to us up here like he'd thrown a punch. Anyway, the referee was straight across, straight red card, and Hartlepool were down to 10 men. And Wrexham had an opportunity to kill the game off just before half-time. Jordan Maguire doing really well on the right-hand side, nutmegged one man, carried on into the box, overran it, but managed to ride a tackle and come out the other side with the ball. He drove it in, it beat Loach. Terrific stop by Kyoso on the line. It ricocheted to a keel right, 6 yards out in front of an open goal, but a tightish angle. And if he'd hit it first time, well, if it was on target, it would have been a goal. But he tried to take a touch, miscontrolled it, the ball squirmed away from him, and the opportunity was gone. The second half saw Hartlepool down to 10 men, but still trying to play with a bit of control, and still in controlled parts of the game, trying to press. Having said that, the first half hour of the first half really saw Wrexham in a reasonable amount of control, but they weren't able to find gaps behind the press. They weren't able to get in and carve out opportunities either. Wrexham had a chance from a corner, having said that, and it was a strange one really. The ball swung in, nasty ricochet, and I think it was Lawler at the far post close range who prodded it back across the face of goal. The flag went up, but I think it might have been for Wright trying to get on the end of it at the far post. So if Lawler had steered it in, which he probably ought to have done, then Wrexham would have been 2-0 up. A couple of minutes later, another opportunity. Bevan going up for a header and going down with a facial injury. As he stayed on the floor though, Wrexham continued to attack. Wright playing a good ball to the right-hand side. Maguire Drew breaking into the box, pulling it back in. Wrexham, of course, lacking Bevan. Only had Pike in there, attacking the 6-yard box. Defender partially cleared this. Wright, though, got to it on the edge of the area and drove a shot narrowly wide of the right post. Bevan, after treatment, wasn't able to continue, and Mike Fondop came on. And Wrexham stopped creating, in all honesty. Game got stretched at times, but Wrexham, just like last Saturday, failed to have the quality to really take advantage of breakaways where they had good numbers. Fondop, who last Tuesday, of course, came off the bench and was excellent up front, this time was nowhere near as effective, struggled to hold the ball up and frustrated the crowd on a number of occasions. And it was Hartlepool who were actually carving up more chances. Wrexham had a real escape just before the hour. Noble 25 yards out, lashing in another shot at that troublesome cop end. Leighton going down to his left, but having to readjust it. He tried to punch it away on the parry, and it just seemed to clip the knuckles of his right hand and flew to his right and just wide of the post. A really lucky escape for him. And then Hartlepool started to put pressure on, and it looks again a lot like Chesterfield. Wrexham's defence having to fight in the box, the midfield going very deep, and Wrexham therefore were just clearing the ball straight back to Hartlepool, and it was coming in again, and it was very frustrating. Wrexham fans certainly were annoyed. I mean, this is 10 men taking the game to Wrexham. Pearson and Lawler won an awful lot of headers in the box as they scrapped away. Walker, interestingly, was substituted at Chesterfield. He'd won a lot of balls when Wrexham were too deep on the edge of the area. This time he was taken off. I think the idea was, well, partly to bring Young into a holding position and just allow Wrexham to try and push up higher in midfield, which was partially successful. The closing stages, Wrexham weren't digging on quite as much as they were at Chesterfield, and also maybe just because Walker, I'm afraid, although he won a lot of headers and tackles, his passing again was off, and he was breaking things up and then giving the ball away in dangerous areas deep in his own half. Anyway, Wrexham got into added time ahead, and then had a lucky escape. Substitute James, who was very hard working, cutting him from the left hand side into the box, lashing a powerful shot in towards the bottom left corner. Really good fast hands by Leighton to get his hands down quickly. An excellent save. It dropped into the goal mouth, but Pearson, as ever, was first at a loose ball to launch it clear. And then Wrexham had a sudden moment of opportunity as Fondop burst through the centre. A 2-on-1 break, Akil right up in support, Fondop running at the last defender, and sadly, what happened next is something we've seen already this season. Fondop just losing control of the ball and running it straight to the centre-back when he really also rolled Akil right to be one-on-one with the keeper. Wrexham then digging in as the 6 minutes of added time unfolded, and had one fortunate moment in the 95th minute. Donaldson getting up the pitch, cutting into the box and really letting rip with a fine right-footed shot, which was dipping and just skimmed over the bar. But Wrexham able to survive. There was a fracas at the end by the corner flag in which it appeared 2 Hartlepool players were booked. It was hard to tell who'd been booked exactly. If that is indeed what happened, then Hartlepool ended up picking up 5 yellow cards and 1 red. It was a well-contested match. Hartlepool, like I said, the game plan was good. The worrying thing for Wrexham is that, again, 2 games in a row, they've only put in half a performance, and in the second half they've been digging in and relying on luck as much as anything else to survive. Got a little bit of post-match analysis from the Colin FM live broadcast. Not as much as we'd have liked, I'm afraid, because there was so much added time that we were only able to chat for about 90 seconds. But nonetheless, here is Colin Henrys and myself just summing up the game in all its 90-second glory.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
Free kick taken short by the corner flag. Pike back heels it, of course, and Jennings takes it back into the crowd by the corner flag, and the referee decides that's that, and he blows his final whistle, and Wrexham have managed to squeeze their way to a 1-0 win. But I mean, I think we've got to accept that wasn't terribly pretty, really, was it?
No, after such a good first half, they seemed to take a long time to get a grip of the game. Luckily, the tactical change, we wondered how it would work out. I think actually we have benefited from the fact that Walker went off and we seemed to push a little bit further forward. But as we said, we just lacked that experience head at the end until the very last few minutes, and we finally did get a hold of the ball and ran the clock down successfully.
Yeah, at least we managed to do that in the end. At the closing stages, that was more satisfactory, really, wasn't it? Because of all that added time, we're into the last minute of the broadcast, sadly, so we'll have to ask, who's your man of the match?
So the sponsors gave it to Luke Young, and certainly deserved it. The effort he made in the middle, but Sean Pearson, for me, in the end, we were holding on. He was that cool, calm head at the back, exactly what you'd expect from your captain and your centre-back.
He won so much, didn't he, in the box in those late stages when we were put under pressure.
And he was clever, like you said. He was winning free kicks. He was keeping the ball down too. There was one, he had the chance to clear it. He volleyed it low along the floor, which, again, it's only a few seconds it kills, but every second you kill, it's a step closer to the win. And now it's 4 points in 2 games, and we're a lot happier than we were a couple of days ago.
Absolutely. They had to fight for it, Wrexham, and it was a bit unconvincing in the end, but despite being against 10 men and not imposing themselves, they came out happily with the 3 points.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.